The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dense trees that surrounded Maple Grove. This small town, with its picturesque houses and friendly neighbors, held a dark secret that lay just beyond the edge of its borders, an ancient forest that had always been avoided by the townsfolk. It was a place whispered about in hushed tones, where eerie sounds echoed and strange lights flickered among the trees. They called it the Whispering Woods. Emma Reed, a young journalist with an insatiable curiosity, had recently moved to Maple Grove. She had heard the stories, but they only piqued her interest further. When she received an invitation to a camping trip deep within the woods from a group of local teenagers, she felt compelled to join, hoping to uncover the mystery that surrounded the place. The day of the trip arrived, and Emma met her companions, Mark, Sarah, Jake, and Lily, at the edge of the forest. They were a mix of excitement and apprehension, their laughter echoing in the air as they gathered supplies. Emma felt a mix of nerves and thrill, her heart racing with the promise of adventure. "Are you ready for some real fun?" Mark grinned, slinging a backpack over his shoulder. "Fun? Or a horror movie waiting to happen?" Emma replied, trying to mask her anxiety with humor. "Come on, it's just a bunch of trees and some campfire stories. What's the worst that could happen?" Jake scoffed. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the sunlight filtered through the branches, creating a patchwork of light and shadows on the forest floor. The atmosphere shifted, becoming heavier, as if the trees themselves were watching them. Emma felt a chill run down her spine, but she shook it off, attributing it to the cool evening breeze. They set up camp in a small clearing, the crackling of the fire soon filling the air with warmth and comfort. As darkness enveloped the woods, the group huddled close, sharing stories, some hilarious, some terrifying. But when the conversation turned to the woods and the tales of disappearances, the mood shifted. "Do you think the stories are true?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course not. They're just old wives' tales to scare kids," Jake replied, rolling his eyes. But Emma's mind was racing. She had done her research. Over the years, numerous people had gone missing in these woods, their cases unresolved. The town's history was littered with rumors of strange occurrences and sightings. What if there was some truth to the tales? As the fire crackled, a strange noise pierced the stillness, a soft whisper carried on the wind. Emma looked around, but the others were engrossed in their stories, oblivious to the sound. "Did you hear that?" Emma asked, her heart pounding. "Hear what?" Mark replied, frowning. "Just something. It sounded like whispering," she said, glancing nervously at the trees. "Probably just the wind. Don't let it get to you." Lily laughed, but her eyes darted toward the woods. As the night deepened, the group's laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence. The whispering returned, louder this time, a cacophony of indistinct voices merging into one unsettling sound. Emma's stomach churned, and she felt an overwhelming urge to leave. "Let's go for a walk," Mark suggested, trying to lighten the mood. "We can explore a little before heading to bed." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Sarah hesitated, glancing at the dark trees. "Come on, what's the worst that could happen?" he urged, his enthusiasm infectious. Reluctantly, Emma and the others agreed, and they set off down a narrow path, the beams of their flashlights flickering in the darkness. The whispers grew louder, echoing in Emma's ears. They felt like they were being watched, the trees looming ominously around them. The deeper they went, the more disoriented Emma felt. The path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the woods. The whispers intensified, now sounding like distant voices calling out, pleading for help. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. "Guys, maybe we should head back," Emma suggested, trying to keep her voice steady. "Oh, come on, we're just getting to the good part," Jake laughed, pushing further into the dark. Just then, Lily stopped abruptly, her flashlight illuminating something on the ground. "What is that?" she asked, pointing. The others gathered around, and Emma's heart sank. It was a torn piece of fabric, frayed at the edges and stained with dark, dried blood. The atmosphere shifted, and the laughter died in their throats. "Okay, that's creepy," Mark said, looking around nervously. "Let's head back." As they turned, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a sinister wind. Panic surged through Emma. They were lost, disoriented by the shadows and the dark tendrils of sound creeping closer. Finally, they burst into a small clearing, the moonlight illuminating their frantic faces. But the relief was short-lived. In the center of the clearing stood an old, dilapidated cabin, its windows dark and foreboding. "What is that doing here?" Jake asked, peering at the structure. "It looks abandoned. We should go inside," Mark suggested, glancing around as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. "No way! We should keep moving!" Sarah protested, her voice shaking. But before they could make a decision, a low growl emanated from the trees, freezing them in place. Emma's heart raced as she felt the ground shake beneath her feet. Something was coming. "Run!" Mark yelled, taking off toward the cabin. They followed him, bursting through the door just as the growling reached a deafening roar behind them. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of decay and mold. The floor creaked ominously beneath their feet as they huddled together, breaths coming in quick gasps. "What was that?" Lily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Mark replied, his bravado fading. "But we need to barricade the door." They found old furniture to block the entrance, the whispers still swirling outside, mingling with the growls. Emma felt a surge of despair. They were trapped, and whatever was out there was closing in. As they caught their breath, Emma's gaze was drawn to a dusty table in the corner. On it lay an old journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. Curiosity overcoming her fear, she picked it up, flipping through the pages. "Guys, listen to this," she said, her voice trembling. "It's someone's diary. It talks about the forest, about people disappearing." "What? Let me see," Jake said, moving closer. Emma read aloud, her voice steady but filled with dread. "They came here for adventure just like us, but the whispers, they're not just stories. They say the woods take people, lure them in with promises and then trap their souls." "Great. That's exactly what we need to hear right now," Mark muttered, glancing nervously at the door. "There's more," Emma continued, her heart pounding. "It says that the forest feeds off fear and despair. The more afraid you are, the stronger it gets." "Then we need to stay calm," Sarah urged, her voice quaking. "We can't give it what it wants." Suddenly, the growling stopped, and the whispers grew quieter. The cabin felt suffocatingly still. Emma's instincts screamed at her to leave, but the door was blocked, and the darkness outside loomed like a predator. As they sat in the cabin, the weight of the whispers pressed down on them. Emma felt the journal slip from her fingers, falling open to a page with a crudely drawn map of the woods. Her breath caught as she recognized landmarks. Some were familiar from their earlier trek. "Look! This map could help us find a way out," she exclaimed, pointing. "Let's focus on getting out of here first," Mark said, glancing at the door. "We need to move fast." They studied the map, tracing a route that wound back toward the edge of the forest. Emma felt a spark of hope, but it was quickly extinguished by the memory of the growling creature outside. "Do you think it's gone?" Lily asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Emma replied, her mind racing. "We'll follow the map. Stick together and don't look back." With trepidation, they moved to the door, the makeshift barricade creaking as they pushed it aside. The night air was thick, the darkness seemingly alive as they stepped out into the moonlit clearing. "Stay close," Mark instructed, leading the way as they hurried down the path indicated on the map. The woods felt different now, quieter, almost expectant. The whispers had faded, replaced by an eerie stillness that sent shivers down Emma's spine. She felt the weight of unseen eyes, watching their every move. Suddenly, A branch snapped behind them. Emma's heart leaped into her throat as she turned to see a dark shape emerging from the shadows. It was fast, moving with a predatory grace that filled her with dread. "Run!" Emma screamed, adrenaline flooding her veins. They took off down the path, branches clawing at their clothes as they pushed through the underbrush. The creature was gaining on them, its breath hot and ragged, echoing in the stillness of the night. "Over there!" Jake shouted, pointing to a faint glow in the distance. As they neared the light, Emma's heart raced with hope. They burst through the last of the trees and into a small clearing. Before them stood the edge of the woods and the safety of the town beyond. But the creature wasn't far behind. It emerged into the clearing, a dark silhouette against the night, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger. Emma felt frozen, terror gripping her as the whispers surged back, louder and more frantic. "Keep going!" Mark yelled, pushing Emma forward. They sprinted toward the safety of Maple Grove, the creature's growl echoing behind them. "Min,